All right, welcome. Welcome to our CVA speaker series. And we have another amazing speaker to learn from today. I'd like to introduce you to Miss Yvette Kim. I'm going to share a little background first, but I'm sure she's going to share more of her story in just a little bit and how she got all this opportunity to learn and grow and have these experiences. She's currently the Chief of Staff, Council Member of Irvine. That's the second largest city in Orange County, and she's the Chief of Staff of an entire team that's out there. In the past, and she was a staff sergeant in the United States Army and continues to serve in the reserve. She was the Deputy Constituent Services and Special Events in Council District 10. She was the Public Affairs and Community Engagement Representative for California School Board Association. She also was the Director of Development for the Center of Asian Americans United for Self-Empowerment. She was the District Representative for the Office of State Senator Anthony Portantino, and she was also a bilingual outreach specialist, City Clerk Election Division. She's done so much in such a little time, I feel, and we're so glad to have you and welcome you, Miss Kim.
Good evening, everyone. As Dr. Kim briefly introduced me, my name is Yvette Kim, and I'm currently working as Chief of Staff to Irvine Councilmember Malonda Liu. Just a quick background of who I am. I came to the States when I was 12, and I actually was born in Korea, but I was raised in Vietnam, so I have a little bit of both culture. And as a 1.5 generation immigrant. I don't think I'm a first generation because I consider my parents as a first generation and I'm on 1.5. I had to navigate the language, the culture, and I'm sure some of you might feel the same way as I do. Sometimes I'm my parents' guardian, and I had to support my parents with English translations and other things that they needed in their life. But yeah, currently working in politics, also still serving in the Army Reserve. Currently a staff sergeant and I'm an instructor in the Army Reserves. And I also co-founded an organization to support and grow Korean American legislative staff, just like myself, 2 years ago. So I wear many different hats.
Thank you. I hope we can hear about all those different hats because there's so many wonderful things. I know that I've had a chance to meet you in your chief of staff role, where you're supporting Council Member Liu, an amazing representative out here in Irvine. But I'd also love to hear a little bit about your staff sergeant experience, if you feel comfortable sharing that and what it's like training our brave soldiers for the United States of America. And then also your organization. You mentioned a training ground for future folks interested in elected office or supporting those in elected office. I know we've talked briefly before, and I mentioned how when I was growing up, I never had a teacher that looked like me or an elected official that looked like me. But now we're seeing a little bit more and more. And thank you for helping to pave the way through your own example, but not only through your own example, but giving back through your organization. So I hope you could share a little bit more about that as well. Can you tell us like what brought you into this? I mean, coming to the United States as at 12, that must have been a lot of transitions happening at once.
Mhm.
And then here you are now in these very like powerful leadership positions. Tell us a little bit how you got there.
Yeah, I grew up in Orange County. I grew up in Fullerton. I went to middle school and high school in Fullerton. And for college, I actually went to Chapman. I spent my entire life, well, not entire, but majority of my life in Orange County. And at Chapman, I actually majored in political science and peace studies. I consider myself very fortunate to work in politics because not many folks who study political science actually work in political science. I actually chose that major because I was not good in math. I was not good in science. I actually almost failed my AP Chem. So political science, or I guess liberal studies, was the only option for me. And Chapman graciously accepted me. I got waitlisted to UC Irvine, Pitzer, all my dream schools. When all my friends went to UCLA, UC Irvine, and all these UC schools in USC. I went to Chapman. And Chapman is a very small liberal arts school in Orange. It's a private school. Back then, when I went in 2012, I was one of the very few Asians and also Korean Americans. So it was a very different environment than the place that I grew up with because Fullerton is majority Asians. And Ch at Chapman, I was one of the very few Asian students. And in school, I actually got to learn about different ideas and the values. And one of the things that I learned was the women's rights and the feminism and things like that. So my sophomore year in college, I just had this idea of joining the army just out of blue. No one told me that I should join. It was just out of nowhere. I thought maybe I should join and be to represent the Asian women in the military. So I just walked into the recruiting office and I said, "Hey, I want to join the army." I actually wanted to join the Air Force, but no one was there because they already met their quota for the year. So they ended up calling me like 2 years later when I was actually at my training in the army. But anyway, I joined I sworn in 2014. So this is my 12th year in the Army. And I actually wrote my senior thesis at Chapman on the topic of equal opportunity training and sexual harassment prevention training in the Army and how those trainings don't make sense to most of the soldiers in the military. And my goal was to eventually become an officer who has the power and influence to make changes within the unit. But obviously, I'm still a staff sergeant. I'm not an officer, I'm an enlisted. But I was able to, raise the rank and get promoted. And I'm actually one of the few Asian staff sergeant, female staff sergeant that you'll find in the Army because a lot of Asians actually join ROTC and become an officer, not enlisted. So that's my bit of a military journey. Um, I still think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. When I first joined, my parents didn't think that I was serious because I had a year before I was shipped to basic training. So my parents thought I was just joking they thought it was just like a spur of a moment decision, but I went through it. I almost failed my basic training. I almost got sent home because I couldn't pass my physical test, but I was able to pass it. And I always tell people if I can do it, anyone can do it because my mile time was like 30 minutes. You can walk faster for that time, for a mile. So that's how terrible I was as a soldier. But I'm very proud of the journey that I've went through. And how I got into this field. Again, I majored in political science, and naturally, I was just looking for a job after college. And I thought I would be joining the UN or going to some embassy, because I was very interested in the international matters, and that's what I did in college. I was part of Model UN. But the job market was a lot tougher than I thought. So I just found a job with the city, which was still great. But funny thing was, I actually went to a conference with my friend from high school to DC. It was like a grassroots community engagement, civic engagement conference for college students. And someone was sitting at my seat, and I said, "Hey, you're sitting at my seat," and we chatted, and I found out that he was working for LA Councilmember David Ryu, who is no longer on the council, but he was one of the very first Korean American to get elected on the LA Council seat years ago. And long story short, I ended up dating the guy, and he was like, "Hey, I heard a senator in Glendale is looking to hire a Korean American staffer. Would you be interested in applying?" So I applied along with other interns and staff members who were working for Councilmember David Ryu at that time. And luckily I got the job. And since then, I've been working in politics, and this field is very small. So once you set your foot in, you're pretty much, I don't want to say you're set, but it's easier to find the next job or other opportunities, and that's why I've been working in this field for the past almost 10 years now.
Well, Miss Kim, you certainly have a story of resilience, of overcoming, whether it's through subject matters, and I wasn't the greatest math student either, by the way, but overcoming those courses, challenges, difficulties, amazing story of resilience. And then now all this wonderful experience and making a difference. And also, of course, thank you for your service for the United States of America in so many different ways, in the military, but also in public service as well. And I remember you mentioning to me how this is a very great way to make a difference. Some people run for office, but others support those who are in office, and you're the chief of staff. Can you describe what that role is? What is the chief of staff exactly for a city?
Yeah, I think different offices use different terms. Some offices use district director or chief of staff. For my role or for our office, it's at this level of city of Irvine. It's a lot smaller. Like chief of staff in LA will be managing anywhere between like 20 to 30 staff members because obviously LA is a lot larger than Irvine. But currently, I manage staff of four and the council member. And my role is essentially to run the office. So I manage the council members' schedule and also the staff members, their responsibilities. We have different projects that we work on or events, and I basically give the staff a big picture or the projects that I want them to work on, and our staff. Someone is working on communications and social media. Someone's working on answering emails and calls from the Irvine residents, and another person's just designated to do all the research, to do policy work, and we have another person who's doing internship program for our office. So everyone has a different role, and my role specifically is to oversee different staff members and their area.
You know, in school, I try to make connections between what students are learning, the skills that they're learning to the future. So it sounds like you're like in some ways kind of like the team leader, like the project leader. So you
Yes,
work on many
yeah.
many different projects, and you're
Yes.
the project leader. And many of our students maybe can relate to being the project leader at their sites. But I know Miss Kim is very modest because Irvine is actually the second largest city in Orange County with 330,000 people. So it's a very big and influential city. Of course, not as big as LA, but when you think about all of the United States of America, it is a very up and coming and big city for
We
sure.
are one of the
Yeah.
top 10
Uh,
cities.
One of the top 10.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're chief of staff of one of the top 10. Very impressive. So I'm going to move into the kind of the more rapid fire questions, going a little deeper into your story. This question is, and we're the CVA Bees, the number one public online high school in the United States. So our mascot is the bees. So sometimes we call ourselves the Hive. What's the hive or community that shaped who you are today, and how do you build your hive? And what are the people's places or practices that renew your energy?
Yeah, I guess the most cliche answer would be like my family. But other than my family, I believe my colleagues that I've met throughout my career are my hive. Uh, when I first started, some of the folks that I work with or someone who was just a year or two ahead of me are now sitting at more executive level, more senior level. And throughout my career, they've been there for me to support me. If I needed any guidance, they were there for me. And if I have any issues, I always reach out to them because they're always there for me as well. And I think this field, especially as an Asian American and a Korean American, we have a very tight-knit group. So we have what's called Asian Pacific Americans Legislative Staffers Association, which I've been a part of since my very beginning of the career 10 years ago. And we still occasionally meet, and wherever I go, they're there. Someone's there. And it's really nice to see that network working now that I'm at a little bit more senior level compared to 10 years ago when I was just starting off. Um, it's really cool. Like my friends are director at department or director at different offices. And they remember me, and obviously I remember them too. And we have this camaraderie of working in this field together where we're fighting against the challenges and setbacks. And so we have this collective mindset. So it's just really nice to have that. But also, I think being proud of Asian American and Korean American also brings that hive together. Like I said, I joined the army out of curiosity, but also I wanted to do that because I had a little bit of a identity crisis where, I was born in Korea, I was raised in Vietnam, but most of my life was in the US. So am I American? But people don't see me as an American. So um, that also had a factor into it. And in this field, a lot of people um, have very similar challenges and the thought process that I do. So that I think that's what our hive is and why we have such a tight and close hive that's very packed, very small. But I know that we're just all here for each other to support.
I can see, Miss Kim, how you've surrounded yourself with some like-minded folks, people who want to make a difference, and that's important. Surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals that can help you move forward. Perhaps, I know you've mentioned a few already, but is there a sting that comes to your mind? So, as you've been on your journey, a real setback that, though was a challenge at the time, strengthened your resilience.
I think as an Asian American and as a Korean American or any minority group that you're a part of, there's always an expectation, right? For Koreans, most parents want you to be doctors, lawyers, make lots of money, and be a great person, and go to great school, Ivy League school. But I did not check any of those boxes. I went to Chapman. I joined the army out of nowhere. I work in politics. We don't make lots and lots of money. We're really here to volunteer and to provide public service to the residents. So i- it's it was hard for me to kind of convince my parents that my career path is what I want to do and this is okay. Um, and also being okay with what other people think about you, right? Like going to Chapman, people will be like, "Oh, she's going to Chapman because she didn't get into Stanford or Berkeley," which is true, but it was still my decision, and you gotta own your decision and be okay with it. Same with joining the army. People will be like, "Why is she joining the army? She doesn't need it," or people judge you for the decisions that you make, but you just gotta find a way to use that for your advantage. I think being in the military, although it was really hard, and it's still hard for me to balance the military and my civilian job, my as a chief of staff. It's really hard because, sometimes I have to go to training for 3 weeks in Virginia. Sometimes they say, hey, in a week or two, you gotta go to Korea for 2 weeks. I have no choice but to go. But then how am I gonna make sure all my staff is ready to go, my team is ready to go, my council member is ready to go. Those are the challenges as well. Um, but again, it comes with uh, learning lessons, right? Now I know how to prepare myself better. If I have to go to a training within a week, I have my bag ready. My staff is ready, like they expected. They know what they're supposed to do. I don't need to micromanage them or I don't need to tell them you need to do this and that because they're we have a system going on. And I think those moments, as cliche as it sounds, those challenges definitely teach you something. And even working in politics, when I first started as a young Asian female, no one took me serious. Asians sometimes look a little younger than their age, and imagine as a 23, 24-year-old starting in politics where all the old people, mostly older folks work, and they might try to manipulate you or try to get information out of you. Um, but you gotta stay your ground and believe in yourself, and also keep your moral compass straight. And I think that's how I was able to grow as a person and as a professional. And that makes me a better person, because now I don't want my future staffers who are Asian American, Korean American to go through what I went through. And I think that's what I also hear from a lot of um, my friends who've been in this field for a longer time than I have. I think they also have the same mindset where they don't want someone like me or someone who's up and coming to go through the same challenges and setbacks that they experience. So it builds you resilience, it builds you character, and it helps you fight back, and it gives you a great story to share with others.
It sounds like Miss Kim, you didn't let any of that pain go to waste. I bet it was painful at the time to sometimes experience what you experienced, but you didn't just go through it, you grew through it. And now here you're on the other side, able to help others as well. I'm wondering, what does honey look like for you? Like, when there's great success, whether it's today or tomorrow, what would like an amazing, successful experience look like for you?
Again, this field, you don't make a lot of money, but you feel better about yourself because you know that you're there for the community. And if you've read the article that Dr. Kim shared, a lot of Asian Americans and Korean Americans don't know how to reach out to us, elected officials, politicians, because they think that we're so far away from them. And I want to kind of change that narrative, and I want to be more accessible. And that's why whenever residents call our office for any help or email us for any help, we don't turn them away. Even if they're not in our district, I always tell my staff, I don't care where they live, just connect them to someone, because we all work for the same people, which are our Irvine residents. So even if they don't live in our district, if they need help, we know where to reach out to. So might as well just do the work. Um, and I I think my long-term goal, my honey, would be to see this pipeline of leadership. Um, as every year, after every election, I get so many calls from different people who are elected or who are current staffer asking, "Hey, do you know anyone who can work for so and so? This person just got elected. They need an Asian American staffer or Korean American staffer. I need help. I need young staffer to join my team." I don't know anyone anymore because it's been a while since I graduated from high school or college. Um, it's it's hard, but I want more Asian Americans and Korean Americans to be in politics, because without us, there will be no representation for Asian Americans. Of course, electing an Asian American politician is very important. Korean American politician, it's so important. But at the same time, it's so hard because you need to find the right person to do it. Luckily, we have Dr. Kim on Irvine Unified School Districts, but not all school districts have a voice like Dr. Kim. So if we can't have an elected official, school board members, council members, senators, then we should have more staffers who can, be the voice for the community. And so I think that's one of the main reason I wanted to work on the nonprofit that I found 2 years ago, is to make sure that we have this pipeline where young staffer right out of college, they don't have to look for a job. We'll have them ready. We're just waiting for them to join this team of staffers. And I don't want them to just stop at being a staffer to attend events or to do scheduling or to manage the office. I want them to seek higher position. I want them to be the director of legislation. I want them to be the communications director. I want more Asians and Koreans to achieve those senior leadership executive roles. So I'm definitely not there yet. Although my title is chief of staff, I definitely have more room to grow. I definitely have more opportunities throughout my career, and I know, and I'm very confident that the people who are in those positions, higher positions than I am, are willing to pull me up so that I can fill their spot when they leave. So I think that's what my success will look like. It's not just my personal success, but I want more of a collective success so our entire community can benefit from all of us.
I think this might connect to the next question. What's one community, country, or global issue you'd love to swarm with innovative solutions? So it could be that organization developing that pipeline, that nonprofit that you created. But what is your thought on that?
Um, like I said, the current generation, whenever I look for a new staff to join our team, I have challenges because a lot of folks want to work from home or want to make lots of money, or have a very flashy title or a job, which all sound so great. Um, but not all jobs can be rainbows and sparkles like you all wanted. My job working in the city, or even when I was with LA City Council member, I got to work on a project with Lakers. And I got to meet all these players, and I was the key person, you know, leading this Lakers project in Koreatown. But at the same time, I was out every day counting homeless people, talking to people who don't have resources and on the street looking for help. Get harassed, you step on all kinds of things on the street, but there's always a good parts and bad parts to it. And so I want the younger generation to know that not all jobs can be, rainbows and sparkles. And this job is also very fun, and it's very rewarding. You'll be basically helping your family members, friends, and your neighbors, who might need help. If you can be that voice and can engage people to learn more about what's happening at a local level, I think that's what I want to see. And the solution to that, I think a lot of elected officials and staffers are trying social media, TikTok, to engage more people. And I see that happening in all around the nation. But to be honest, I don't have an answer. I don't know how to convince you all to somehow get more interested in your local politics. I don't know if you know who your council member is, if you don't live in Irvine, and I just don't know, because even growing up, I didn't know who my council member was or who my senator or assembly member was. But I think me participating in this type of fireside chat, or just meeting with some of our interns in the office and getting them more interested in politics and civic engagement is one way to solve this issue of our younger generation not willing to work in public service because it's not the most glorious job or most paying job out there.
You hear Miss Kim saying not glorious, but I've seen her at some pretty glorious events. Her behind the scenes for some amazing events happening all around our city, just so you know.
That's true.
Yes. And what was that organization again? The one that you started? Do you have a website for that? And perhaps
Yes.
maybe that's something our school in the future, maybe that's a partnership that we can help develop to support one another with this common vision, perhaps. But what was that organization and website once again?
Yeah, it's CALS. So it's Korean Americans Legislative Staffers Association. I forgot if it was. I'll send you the link. I forgot what the website was. But yeah, I would love to have more high school students and college students to be interested in being a staffer because yes, it's not the most glorious, but I do go to fun events. Some of my colleagues got to meet with Sonny Kim, the LAFC player, go to press release events. Again, the Lakers was my fun time at the council. You get to go to this big event, meet amazing people. So it's not always a bad thing, but yeah.
But you're just realistic as well. Thank you for sharing
Yes,
those
yes.
realistic stories too. And is there like an idea, a golden pollen, like an idea that you hope spreads everywhere? If there's like a motto that you have for your life or for your organization that, man, I wish this idea just goes out there.
I my personal I don't know if this is like the best thing you should follow, but I actually don't have a plan in life. I go with the flow. If someone offers me a job and if that job sounds like it'll benefit me in the long run, I'll take it. And that's why I have so many titles and I have so many experience because I've been I've been going I've been seeking different opportunities every 2, 3 years. And it's not the most ideal thing to do. It might work for some people, it might not work for some people. In politics, it's really common for you to switch offices or transition to another job uh, every now and then because my job depends on my boss. Like, for example, my old boss lost her election 2 years ago, and that's how I was able to join my current council member. So if you don't have a perfect plan, that's totally fine. My plan was not to, I wasn't planning to go to Chapman. I wanted to go to UCLA, USC. That plan didn't work out. Um, I didn't plan to join the army, but it was just out of curiosity, I joined the army, and it's still one of the best decisions I've ever made. It makes me stand out amongst other people. I'm pretty sure I'm one of the very few staffers working in politics who are also in the army or in the military in general. So, even if your career path or your journey or your plan is not traditional, like you gotta go to a good school, major in something great, make lots of money, have a great job. You don't have to be so set on that. Um, and that's what I want to tell people that, especially for Asian Americans, we want to be this perfect Asian American person in the society, but you don't really have to because that, again, sets you apart from other people.
Wow, it sounds like just be curious and say yes. And a lot of doors have opened to you with that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Is there like you're seeing these students are ninth to 12th graders, many of them in 12th grade, they're about to head off into college. Is there a challenge that you'd like to give our students and community here at CVA when you think about our school, our students? What is a challenge that you'd like to leave with us?
Try something that you never wanted to try. For example, I majored in political science and I was more interested in the international studies, but obviously I've been working in local politics for my entire career. And if you read my article, I actually work for a nonprofit for a brief moment of time. For about 2 years, I was a director of development, meaning like doing fundraising for a nonprofit. And that was totally out of my skill sets. I didn't even know what grant writing was, how to fundraise, but I was able to learn pretty quickly. Did I like that job? I did. I got to learn different skill sets, and sometimes those skill sets come very useful. Um, but I don't think I would have taken that job if someone didn't ask me to do it or I've shown an interest to do it. So, if a random opportunity comes to you, just take it, just like I did with the military as well. And if you've never thought about joining the military, maybe go talk to some of the local recruiters and see if they might have different fun opportunities for you. Military is not just all like shooting weapons. They have different jobs within the military. My job is to operate forklifts and crane on a vessel. So when our soldiers get deployed or come back from a deployment, our unit gets deployed to that location at a port, and I get to operate a big crane on a vessel and move like container boxes and like tanks and vehicles and weapons. And I mean, when will I ever get to do that kind of a job as a political staffer? Um, so just say yes to some of the ideas that just come up in your mind. It might lead you to something very fun and interesting.
Well, Miss Kim, just in this conversation alone, I've learned so much about you, and I'm taking so much away personally. And it wouldn't surprise me if there are many students in here who right now are like, I'm taking something really good away from what you just shared. So thank you so much, Yvette Kim, Chief of Staff to Council Member in the City Council. Let's give her a wild applause.
Thank you for having me.